I went to get my knee down. I know this may sound a little strange to your listeners, but it wouldn't go down. And I said, this is like ridiculous. So I had to actually push my knee down. Then I had to push my second knee down. All right. And then I looked up and I says, whatever's out there, God, or whoever you are, or whatever you want me to do, just let me know. And on my kids, I don't even know how to tell you, my anger, my rage went away.
All right, adapters, welcome to the Adapt You podcast. This week, I'm super crazy excited to have an incredibly diverse and unique and inspiring individual on the show. We've never had anybody on the show like John Giordano. Now, John, who himself is in long-term recovery, is an addiction expert whose career spans over 35 years. John has gone through an incredible life transformation from sexual abuse to homelessness and addiction to being a renowned addiction expert. As he starts to tell his story, it's crazy. He basically grew up like he lived the life of the Sopranos. I mean, his family was in that type of business, which he'll talk about. So some wild, wild stories. John's passion for helping people, though, shined through early in his life as a karate instructor. And he's continued later as he's helped literally thousands of addicts find their path of recovery at his former treatment center. What's amazing is John started his own treatment center with only $300, which he eventually sold 18 years later for $45 million. He's a published author of 3 amazing books and has contributed to over 77 scientific research papers, which is really, really impressive. He's the program director for the South Beach Detox and the chaplain for the North Miami Police Department. He's considered by his peers to be a pioneer in what we call holistic addiction treatment. John developed innovative new therapies early in his career that have been proven effective and gone on to become the standard of care in most modern treatment centers. He continues to play a pivotal role in the ongoing effort to usher evidence-based and scientifically proven holistic modalities into mainstream addiction medicine. It's an incredible story. He's a guy from the South Bronx who grew up a bit of had some rough going growing up in that area as a child. He was always the kid that just never quit. And a pretty interesting fun fact about John that we're going to talk about on this podcast is that he's actually a 10th degree black belt and was inducted into the Karate Hall of Fame. A lot to talk about with John. Let's welcome John to the show. Everybody, welcome John Giordano to the show. John, welcome to the show. I am incredibly pumped to have you on, man.
Hey, thank you, man. I'm always glad to get on and share information with people. And, I always tell people, don't believe a word I tell you. Go and research whatever I say. You'll see it's the truth.
Which is awesome. I wish more people would actually take the time to do that with especially a great many things that are going on these days today. As I'm sure we could get into. As it relates to your intro, one thing that stood out with me, we always asked in the podcast application for people to give 3 interesting facts about yours. One jumped off from you, which is that you are a 10th degree black belt and was inducted into the Karate Hall of Fame. And I'll be honest, I always thought 5th degree was the top of the karate food chain. I hear now there's 10. Maybe it goes higher than that. I don't know, but
no, that's pretty, as high as it goes.
That's pretty badass. So tell us a little bit about that and karate.
Well, I've been doing the martial arts since 1962. And I trained under some famous grandmasters like Grandmaster Peter Urban, who started the USA Goju system that he brought here to this country. He was an ex-Marine, and he brought that style of karate here, Goju karate. And I studied under Master Frank Ruiz, Grandmaster Ruiz, who also is a world karate champion. He had 186 fights undefeated. And I studied under Grandmaster Hara with jiu-jitsu, Hakaru jiu-jitsu, because I'm a black belt in judo and jiu-jitsu also.
Wow.
And I studied under Mr. Visitation, who was another famous Filipino grandmaster, under V-jitsu. So I'm a grandmaster in Goju karate. I have a black belt in judo and a black belt in jujitsu as well. I don't know how many time national karate champion. I don't know. I lost count, maybe 20 times or something. Well, who knows? And I'm in the Black Belt Hall of Fame from Grandmasters Ruiz's Black Belt Hall of Fame. And we had a bunch of grandmasters and a bunch of 8th degree, 9th degree black belts put me in there. And I just got really a cool thing. And I guess I could show it. They could see it, right?
Yep.
Can you see this?
Yeah. Pull back just a little bit. There you go.
How's that?
Yeah. So yeah, the Ultimate Warriors Hall of Fame. Now, what's that?
Okay. That's people. And it was so cool. I was on a Zoom call with 50 grandmasters from around the world. We each got on and talked about our story. And it was like one guy was from Vietnam, another guy was from Germany, another guy was from the United States, and another guy was from Taiwan. I mean, it was wild. And, you know, to get nominated is like pretty heavy duty.
Oh, that's huge, man. I mean, if you're
Yeah.
on with the 50, major grandmasters.
Major guys, and a lot of the guys were in, if you go to karate movies, you'll see them. Now, my dojo brother, Ronnie Van Cleef, is in Hawaii. He's a grandmaster of Chinese Goju. And he was in movies with Bruce Lee. They called him the Black Dragon.
Wow.
And, and that's my buddy. And he nominated me with Al Dukakis, another famous karate guy. All of us, we've been doing it for over like 60 years.
That's crazy.
Karate today is not the same. It's more acrobatics and it's a sport. And when I learned it, it's a martial arts. We learned how to maim or kill people. I've taught special forces. I taught police officers.
Oh, wow.
All of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'd say and for those who haven't picked it up yet, John is from the Bronx. He's from New York. It holds a little special place in my heart. Although I'm from upstate, I still consider myself a New Yorker. I know you guys say I'm on the wrong side of the Hudson River. I'm pretty much in Canada, but originally, New Yorker, Yankee fan, still Yankee fan. So you can hear it in his voice. And those who've been to New York and been in that concrete jungle, they understand, like, you got to be a fighter to survive in that environment.
Oh, yeah. I came from the worst part. They wrote it up in Time magazine as the worst place in the United States. You ever heard of Fort Apache?
I have not, but this is
called Fort Apache.
This is where you grew up?
The South Bronx.
Oh, wow.
And it was back then, I was in all kinds of gangs, black gangs, Hispanic gangs, Irish gangs, Italian gangs. When you read my book, The Kid from the South Bronx Who Never Gave Up, it's like my family is a mafia type family. My father was a heroin dealer. My uncle was a hitman. Matter of fact, he killed a caterer at my wedding because he insulted him.
Oh, wow.
It's in my book. It's got a lot of layers in the book, so you'll see it.
Yeah.
I was molested when I was a kid. My father went to jail when I was 8. And it just goes on and on and on. And I said I would never be like them. And when I was 20 years old, I got into drugs and stuff like that. And I just kept going, even though I was doing karate. I mean, I used to smoke a cigarette and hit the heavy bag. I mean, I was like so incongruent for what life was about.
Yeah.
And even though I was using, I mean, back then I did a lot of pretty wild stuff. I did 8 plays in the Theater of Performing Arts. I did what I was doing was a kabuki theater. That's Japanese theater, white face makeup, and a storyteller backstage. And what I did was I wove the storyline into a play. And what the storyline was a Shaolin monk coming up as a young boy to be a full Shaolin monk. And we wove demonstrations in the storyline. Like I would be blindfolded and I cut a cucumber off somebody's live stomach with a live sword.
Wow.
Breaking concrete on fire with my head. All kinds of different guys doing different things. People hidden in the audience. And we had standing room only for 8 years in a row down in Miami Beach. I mean, crazy stuff. even when I was using, I was like still productive. So not towards the end, but
Yeah.
I also did a concert with James Brown, 1981. We did a concert, and it was 60,000 people showed up. It was a free concert. I tell people this, they go, "Oh, John, it can't be that many people." They say, "Well, I got the only video that you can look at." Once they look at the video, they go, "Oh shit, I can't believe this. People in the trees, people as far as your eye can see in every direction." It was pretty crazy. So what I did was I worked for a flea market. That's why I did this. And they wanted a grand opening. So what I did was I said, look, we need a theme. So I was in the Black community, and it just finished the riots, right? Liberty City and over town in Miami there. So I says, look, what I want to do is I want to help these people, teach them how to run a business, how to open a business, how to buy. So I went to the SBA people, and they came over and they were teaching people that wanted to buy boots in this 1,000, 1,000 rooms in a flea market, to put their businesses. And I was going in all the churches and dancing with the people and singing in all the Black churches. And so I said, look, I want to invite President Reagan to this concert. So everybody was hysterical laughing. They go, John, I don't think the president's going to come to the flea market. I said, no, you don't understand. I says, we're revitalizing Liberty City and Overtown. He'll love it. So I got a letter back from the White House. Everybody shut their mouth. They looked at me, they go, oh my God. So the president, the secretary said, the president would love to come, but he can't because of his scheduling, but he's sending a representative. He sent Carrie Meeks.
Wow.
Now, Carrie Meeks at the time was a state representative. She's also now Senator Meeks. And what happened was they really look at you every way from Sunday because they're not just coming to any place. So she looked at all the stuff I was doing, talked to a bunch of people. She went to the Martin Luther King Foundation and told them what I was doing for the community because my karate schools were in Liberty City. Most of my Black belts are African American. So they presented me with the Martin Luther King Award on stage in front of 60,000 people.
Wow.
It was, people were going, I can't believe what I'm seeing. I said, you can't? I can't either. I says, I can't believe that we did this. So those are some of the things that's in my book. So you read a lot. I got a lot of stuff that I did.
That's phenomenal. Like I mean, I can imagine we could talk for hours about what's in that book. And I definitely want to uncover and unbox a lot of things. And you started to go down, you just sort of skim the surface of some of your childhood and some of the things that you dealt with. And if it's all right, I kind of want to rewind a little bit, have you talk a little bit about your childhood, specifically what it was like growing up with, I think, from reading in your bio, your father was a heroin dealer, and then come to learn that I think you said somebody in your family was a hitman. So, that mafioso style of upbringing, being in the South Bronx, what that was like and kind of how that shaped you into the direction that you want right out of the gates.
Well, it was kind of crazy, okay, because I thought I was cursed. So when I was 8.5, I got molested by some of the kids in the neighborhood and some of the older boys. And it was really strange for me. And part of me liked it. And I says, something's wrong with me. So I went to a priest and asked him to get the evil out of me. But I didn't realize, because of course I was a young boy, that, for 1/10 of a second, just because somebody's rubbing a part of you or touching a part of you that's sensitive like that, your brain would go into that mode, even for a moment, and that's all it was for a moment. But I thought I was very sick. And so after that, I was always felt ashamed, always felt less than, always felt guilty. And of course I didn't tell anyone, and it carried me for quite a while. So when my father went to jail, when he came out, I was 12 years old. By that time I was in gangs, doing all kinds of crazy stuff, fighting all the time. And my poor mother, man, she, they used to slip out of the house and, one of those kind of kids in the South Bronx, So as time went on, my father got home and I was so happy. My brother and I, we were dancing and everything. And, I was down in the neighborhood, and this kid that was a boxer, all right, him and I had a thing with each other, and that was before I took karate or anything. And he said, so we got into a fight, and he beat the shit out of me. Excuse my expression, but that's what he did. I had a black eye, I had a broken lip, you know, and I went upstairs crying to my father. And I thought he was going to rescue me, go down and beat the hell out of the guy. Well, that's not what happened. My father told me, grabbed me by my shirt. He says, let me tell you something. You cannot come home until you beat that guy. I don't care if you hit him with a bat, but you're not coming home. So now I can't go home. So I went downstairs and I saw the guy again. I figured, well, let me make up with the guy. Maybe, you know, I can cause like a peace treaty with this guy. So I said, listen, why don't we just, you know, be friends and let's forget about what happened. He said, yeah, okay, no problem. So he went to shake my hand. He held my hand and punched me with the other hand.
Oh, wow.
You know, I got another black eye, right? And he laughed at me and walked away. So I went down the street crying, and I ran into a friend of mine, Joey. And Joey said to me, what happened to you? And I told him, and he says to me, John, you could beat that guy. I said, no, man, he's a Golden Glove boxer. I can't beat him. Look what he did to me. He says, you can beat him. So I don't know why or what, okay, but for a moment in time, I got confidence in me. And I went over to the guy, okay, and I said, hey, let's do it. So he said, you see your face? Now nobody's going to recognize you. And he went to sneak punch me. I don't know how I did it, okay? I ducked down. I grabbed him by his bottom of his legs, and I threw him over my shoulders onto the floor, and I proceeded to beat him up and down the sidewalk. And I wouldn't stop. He kept saying, I give up. I said, never happened. And I kept hitting him, and they pulled me off. So I went upstairs. I told my father, Dad, I beat him. My father smacked me in the face and said, now get to bed. You should have did that in the first place. That was my first, you know,
Wow.
looking at it in the rear, that was my first lesson on never to give up.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Right. You were pretty defeated. You had two black eyes. You get
right.
your dad telling you that, you know, you to go, that don't come home until you beat his ass. And was it fear of your father's judgment, or was it, I mean, what was it that lit that fire in you to sort of, you know, Stone Cold Steve Austin that guy to the ground like you did?
It was shame, guilt. I let my father down.
Get that.
You know, all of those things, you know, those are things that kids feel. And at least this kid did, you know. And, but I learned later on that there are no failures in life. There are only lessons.
Amen.
You know, and people don't get that. And I learned that much later in life after I got into recovery. And I got into recovery when I was 37. So I said I will never be like my family. You know, my uncle threw a wedding for me, okay, and we were in New York, and it was really interesting. I married a Jewish girl. I'm Italian, of course. I'm not Jewish, and the family wanted her to marry a Jewish man and all this kind of stuff. But then they met my family. They loved them. What do they know? But they liked them. Okay, so we got married. My uncle threw the wedding. He paid for it, and it was very interesting. Her father was a lawyer. Her mother was the head of the PTA. Okay, so on one side of the room you had lawyers and doctors and people with pens, and the other side you had racket guys with guns. So it was a very diverse wedding.
Sounds like a movie scene. Yeah.
Oh, it wasn't like a movie scene. Matter of fact, I'm trying to get this to be a movie. So anyway, my uncle was in there, and the caterer insulted him in front of the family. He says, oh, a couple of extra people came in, and he was going to pay him. And before he could even say anything, the guy said, oh, you guineas are trying to sneak people in here. Well, the next morning, he was going to get paid, and the guy got paid with lead bullets.
Oh, wow.
So he got killed. So we're at my grandmother's house, right, with my new bride, my new family, all right? and we get a phone call, and my mother goes into the kitchen. Everybody was in the living room throwing guns down the chute. Okay. I said, Grandma, what are you doing? And she says, you got to get out of here now. I said, why? Your uncle killed the caterer. I said, what? So,
I'm sorry to laugh, but it's like, this is like literally sounds like a movie. It should be a movie.
I know.
Continue, please go. And so it's throwing away guns. You got to go. My gosh.
My mother, thank God, we had 4 hours before I needed the flight. So we said, well, you got 4 hours. My dad said, no, he gets anxiety. Let's all go. And just as they went, the detectives came to my grandmother's house to look for my uncle.
Wow.
I could talk about that because it's double jeopardy. They found him innocent, by the way. So,
they did. Okay.
Maybe he didn't kill him. Let's put that on air. I don't.
Right.
So what happened with him is they finally arrested him. Okay. And he was acting crazy. So they put him in a straitjacket. And they were carrying him down a flight of stairs. He dove down the stairs head first in the straitjacket. So what happened was the court deemed him not able to go to trial, and they put him in a mental institution for 2 years. And when he went to trial, they couldn't prove that he did anything. So it's done.
That's it. It's done.
So, and the story goes on, when I had him in treatment, when I owned the treatment center later on, and because he was stuck on crack cocaine, and I put him in treatment, and I told the people what he did for a living, and they said, "Oh, yeah, okay, John, yeah." And nobody believes you. I said, "Why would I make up shit like this?" I said, "It doesn't even make sense. I don't need your applause or your anything." So he's in the group. The therapist comes running into my office. He goes, "What happened? What happened? What did my uncle do?" He says, "He's telling people about the people he killed." I said, "I told you what he did.
I told you so." That is insane, John. Honestly, that is.
Listen, I can tell you, the rest of my life is just as insane. You have no idea.
We're gonna have to have you on the show multiple times. These stories are just unbelievable. So
I know they sound like fiction, but it's what everybody that knows me knows it's the truth. I mean, I don't know how to tell people. This is a true story. I don't have to make this stuff up.
Yeah, we need to get you in contact with a Netflix producer for sure, because I don't think you could cover it all in a movie. It sounds like you might need a series.
Oh, no. I got stuff that you cannot believe that went on. I mean, I used to teach the bodyguards for the cartel in Colombia. I used to do collection work for the Colombians.
Oh, wow. Collection work? Yeah.
I used to collect the money. When you didn't pay your bill, they come see me with my black belts.
Oh, so then you break some kneecaps in order to get the.
Well, really, most of them knew who I was, and they knew all the people I was with, and they just said, "Oh, John, we're sorry, we're a little late. We didn't mean late."
Here, please take the money. Yeah.
Yeah.
When they see you, it's.
I mean, I was getting really crazy. I went there with Uzis. I used to sell cocaine by the kilo.
Wow.
I never got busted.
Really?
I don't even have a misdemeanor. Very fortunate. Impressive. I used to teach the DEA, and I used to teach the police department.
So you had some buddies.
Sell drugs. United the twain shall meet.
Yes.
But,
okay.
Listen, I was using drugs. I was not in my right mind, but I was like two people, and most addicts are like two people. What you see is not what you get a lot of times. I was helping kids in the community. I was doing all kinds of different things, but I was dealing drugs.
So you were dealing drugs and you were doing drugs. And then how long did that last? Like, how long were you on that train? I mean, you're doing a little bit of good and evil at the same time, right? It sounds like.
Yes.
So you're being productive in both, right? So you were functioning. I was
functioning.
You were functioning because some people.
If you want to call it functioning.
Well, functioning meaning you're highly productive, and that could be a highly productive criminal, or that could be a highly productive member of society.
There's different types of both. I never stole from anybody. I never beat anybody up that didn't deserve to get hit, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
That just wasn't who I was, and I was one of the worst drug dealers you want to meet because, if people said, like, if you have a kilo of Coke, and you say, well, there's 50% rocks in there and the rest is powder, let's say, and it doesn't come out that way, I used to get upset. So what I did was I used to break the Coke down to show them that all the rocks and then all the things. And then I used to tell them how much I cut it. because I just wanted to be honest with them.
Yeah.
I was like nuts.
You're like
People
an
say,
you're like
"You
an
don't
honest
belong
Coke dealer. Yeah.
as a Coke dealer."
Yeah. You have too much conscious. Yeah. You got not enough shade in you. So like,
Right. So
now
I only had
how
one
long this
customer.
last?
I only had one customer who was my next door neighbor. So we used to throw the kilos over the fence, and he used to throw the money back over the fence. Oh, I could go on and on. You.
Oh my gosh. So how many years were you doing this? Like
Well,
you know,
I started doing drugs when I was 20.
okay.
And the way I started was real simple. I was teaching karate in Florida. I came down to Florida when I was 17 and a half by myself. I knew one person down here. It was a car runner, a guy that worked in parking cars. And I was teaching karate at the Carillon Hotel on the sun deck there. And I got a bunch of students, and they would come to my classes high. Now, I didn't do anything. I didn't drink. I didn't do anything. I was a competitor. I fought in a lot of tournaments and stuff. And I said, "What do you guys do? Oh, you want to come out of my class? Oh, okay, fine." So I worked them out till they all threw up. So I figured that would discourage them. Well, next day, same thing. I said, "What is wrong with you people? And why do you keep coming back here? Well, we want to learn. But why are you high? Go high later. Don't get high in my class."
Yeah.
So what wound up, I said, "Well, you never tried it. You don't know." So I said, "Yeah, okay." So a guy came over my house, one of my friends, and he had a little vial of LSD, right? Pure liquid LSD. Because this is in 65, 66, somewhere around there. And I said, "What's that?" He says, "Oh, that's LSD." I said, "Let me see." So I looked at it and I poured the whole thing in my mouth.
Oh,
The
wow.
guy freaked out. He said, "What did you do? That's for 5 people." I said, "Oh, really?" And I went off to the race. In about 35, 40 minutes, I was gone. And everything looked like plastic and everything was moving. Colors were going. And what happened was I looked at the guy and I said, and I don't even know why I said that. Sounds kind of stupid. I said, "You look like a frog. I think I'm going to kill you." So thank God the guy knew what to do. Right? He says, "Oh, looking at that chandelier over there." And mine went someplace else. I was gone for about 3 or 4 days on this journey. And I thought it would never come down. But after that, I really liked it because I felt that it expanded my mind. And I was doing tripping every weekend, and I was doing peyote, I was doing psilocybin, mushrooms, you name it. Anything that had to do with psychedelic that can expand your mind, that's what I did. Then I started smoking pot, and I didn't like pot because after a while I was to eat all the time, and I said, "This is a bummer. I don't want to do this." And then I got into MDA. They call it MDMA right now, but it was MDA. These are the original guy from Canada that made MDA. Okay, and next door to my house, my apartment, was this guy with some hookers. So, and I was married at the time, which didn't mean anything to me because we both were using, and who paid attention to marriage vows? So I would go next door. I would go to bed with all the hookers, get high with the drugs, and then come home after a couple of days. She would fight with me, and I say, "I'm sorry," and typical addict stuff that we do. And then one day I took two or three capsules of MDMA, and I wanted to meditate. So what I did was I put candles all around. I got a mirror and I put that in front of me. Don't do that, by the way. Anyway, I did that, and all of a sudden I saw 5 of me sitting around on the couch. And I was like freaked out. And I started talking like, "Hello," that kind of tone.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine called me up. Thank God he called me. And I got on the phone talking like that. He says, "Are you okay?" I stopped talking like that. He goes, "I'll be right there." So he came there, and I don't know what would happen after that because I was gone. But, that didn't teach me anything. I just kept going with other things. That's what us addicts do. So to cut the story short, we could be here all night. With
Yeah. How'd you stop? And like, and how long, I guess, when did you stop and what got you to stop? I'm always interested to hear how people stop. Like
Okay. Well, here's the thing. I didn't think I had a problem. I was working at a car wash. I owned part of the car wash with my buddy. And we had 35 guys washing and waxing cars, and they were from the jail release program. So these are all really tough guys.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, I would ride herd over them. And after a while, I was thick. I used to carry guns, one on my back, one on my hip, and one on my leg. And when they got out of hand, I pulled the gun out, put it in their mouth. I said, "Listen, you got to straighten out, man." So, "Oh man, I'm sorry, John. I'm sorry." I said, "Okay." And then one time I brought my black belts there, which are all black, and they were got holsters with guns and stuff like that. I said, "Fellas, please just do your work. I pay you nice. Don't mess around."
Mm-hmm.
So everybody got the message because they understand that kind of message. Anyway, what happened was this guy came, and this is what caused me to go to treatment. This big 6'2" guy with his girlfriend came to wash the cars, right? And I was like a firecracker. I mean, you couldn't say 2 words to me. I was at the end of my addiction where it was really bad, right? And he says, "Hey, boy," he's calling me boy. I'm 37 years old, right? He threw me his keys and he says, "Listen, make sure you get this finished by the time I get back." And everybody's eyes got like this.
Yeah.
They thought I was going to kill him, right? So I'm holding my breath, and the other manager says, "John, just take it easy, don't worry." I said, okay. So he came back and he says, "Hey, is my car ready?" And I lost it. And everybody knew it. And everybody got around me and in front of him, right? And he started yelling at me. I jumped straight up in the air. I spun in the air with a flying, spinning back kick. I hit him in the head, drove him against the building, and started choking him. And then they pulled me off of him. And he says, "Well, I'm coming back." I said, "You come back." Right? He went down to the police station. This is the funny part of the story. He was a DEA agent. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Now, I didn't know. I didn't care who he was. Right. So he went down to the police station. He says, "Hey, this guy did this, and I want you guys to come up and arrest." He says, "What did the guy look like? What was his name?" "Some guy, John." "Oh, you got the wrong guy. They were my students." So they had to come up to see me. They came up and they said, "John, what happened?" I told him. He says, "We're so glad you kicked the shit out of him." He says, "He's already in trouble for doing some other stuff with his mouth." So they went back to him and say, "You're already in trouble with your mouth, and there's a whole bunch of people saying you started it. If I were you, I'd shut your mouth and just keep moving." So that's what happened. Then the owner, my partner, my friend says, "John, you're out of control, man." I said, "What do you mean? You know what he did?" I said, "John, you're out of control." So he got together with my mother, my family, and I told you what my family was, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're doing an intervention on me. I'm wondering who's doing an intervention on them. So, I mean, if I got a problem, what the hell what do you think they got?
Right, yeah.
So anyway, my mom said she'd never talk to me again. And my mom was like that, nice Italian woman. Yeah. So I said, okay. I don't want to give anybody a praise. My family was great. They're loving, they were caring. They just did things that, you're not supposed to do. Anyway, I said, all right, I'll go to treatment. I had some Coke in my sock. I went to the bathroom. They brought me to the hospital. I did a couple of bumps before I went in. And I went upstairs and I wore my dark sunglasses because I didn't want anybody to know who I was.
Okay.
Because I taught most of the doctors and nurses' kids karate. So I didn't want them to know the karate teacher was a drug addict. Well, that didn't work because the kid came up from the administration office who happened to be my student. And that ended that charade. So you want me to go on with the story of treatment?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. So from, I mean, I don't even know what to say when you're telling me your background and your history. Literally, I feel like I'm watching listen to a scene out of Goodfellas or something. I mean, between.
Well, that's why I never watched The Sopranos, because I lived it. I said, what am
I was going to say, or The Sopranos. Between your accent and your background and your family, it's unbelievable. And literally your life is what those shows are based off. I never have actually met somebody that was that deep into it. And it is your background is wild. What's even more wild is like, how do you go from that to, and this is where I ask you to segue, to being, what was once the problem to now the solution, right? So talk to me about rehab and then how you exited that. And I'm making an assumption here that's
so
from
I
there.
went to rehab, and this
When was this? How old were you again? 30,
I was
37?
37 years old.
37. Okay.
Right. And I went to rehab, and then they said to me, well, one of my friends knew the director there, and the doctor and everybody. So, and I never unpacked my bags. I always had my bags packed because I was always leaving. I said to these people, they had me in group, I won't even get high with people like you. What am I doing here? I was angry, I was nasty. What I really was full of shame, full of guilt, and saying, what the heck am I doing? What did I do to deserve this? And then I start to realize what I did. As you clear up, you start to realize all the stuff that you do, So anyway, they told me to share in group. I said, if I share in group of what I did, I'd have to kill you. And I said, if you mess with me, I'm going to have my black belt take care of you when you go down to get your car. So normally they would throw you out of treatment.
I was going to say, yeah, that's,
but
how'd you say
what
it?
happened was I did a lot more talking about stuff like that than actually doing that kind of stuff. I wasn't that kind of guy really, but I used intimidation to get what I wanted at the time, So I went to the elevator. I wanted to leave, and they kept pulling me back, pulling me in meetings and talking to me, the therapist and the doctor, whatever. And it was Christmas time. I went in December 4th. That's my clean day. And I got 37 years now in recovery, December 4th. I didn't think I would get 37 minutes, and if you told me this would happen, I would probably punch you in the face thinking you're fooling, making fun of me. But anyway, here I am. And I wanted to go home for Christmas Eve. And they wouldn't let me. And I got pissed. So I said, I got my kids and my family. I want to go home. Okay. Well, I was full of shit. I really didn't care about Christmas. I wanted to go home because my friends would give me envelopes with Coke in it so I could go get high. But anyway, I went to my room. I don't know about anybody else, but my anger always turned into rage. And it would never go away within 5 minutes. It took hours or sometimes a day before it went away. So I remember my therapist saying to me, John, have you ever decided to pray on your knees? I said, listen, man, I'm a recovering Catholic. You mean God don't listen to me? How about if I'm standing in a closet? You think he'll listen? He says, no, John, how about humility? I said, yeah. Okay, give me a break. Mm-hmm. So when I went in my room, I heard him in my head, okay, saying these things. I said, maybe I should try because I'm really hurting, right? Because when you're not using, now all the emotions are floating to the surface. And it's very overwhelming, So I went to get my knee down. I know this may sound a little strange to your listeners, but it wouldn't go down. And I said, this is like ridiculous. So I had to actually push my knee down. Then I had to push my second knee down. All right. And then I looked up and I says, whatever's out there, God, or whoever you are, or whatever you want me to do, just let me know. And on my kids, I don't even know how to tell you, my anger, my rage went away. Like it never, ever was there.
Just like that.
Just like that. And that
well,
freaked
no
me out.
shit.
So you know what
really?
I did? Yeah, swear to God. You know what I did? I tried to get it back. Wouldn't come back.
Why would you want it back? Because it was kind of your edge, your
well,
way.
Because I'm freaking out. I mean, if you know yourself and all of a sudden you're in this rage, I'm punching the door and I'm doing all this stuff. And I finally get on my knees talking to something that I don't even believe in. And all of a sudden it goes away. I don't know about you, but it freaked me out.
Yeah, it kind of freaked me out that's even, I mean, it sounds very divine. So so you were feeling pissed off, angered. You had to physically push your knees to the ground. And then
I had tears in my eyes. I was so angry. Okay.
Really?
And
what did you explain the feeling though? Like when you said it went away, like, was it like, did you feel calmness, stillness,
Here
quiet?
I am. I say, listen, whatever you want me to do, whatever you're willing, whatever you are, please, I'll do it. And it went like this. And I said, no, this guy, they won't let me go home. And I couldn't rekindle it. It was gone. So that's what I call a spiritual awakening that happened to me in treatment.
Yeah, definitely.
But
wow.
that wasn't the only thing. So after that, I worked hard in treatment, and then you have to go to what is known as exiting the next week. Exiting was where all the nurses, the doctors, and the counselors, and the therapists will put you in a room, and they'll let you know if you need more time in treatment, or they have to send you away to long-term treatment, right? And I was freaked out. I don't want to go to long-term treatment. So I went into the room with all of them, and I'm sitting there, and the doctor said, well, John's really doing a lot better, and the nurses and everybody. And the head doctor was a woman, and she said, he's full of shit. Just like that. He's got you all fooled. Well, the real John showed up, okay? And I said, you fat son of a bitch, who do you think you are? And as the words kept coming out, I could kill all of you and leave this room and you wouldn't be able to do anything. And my doctor said, John, all we want to do is help you. And I busted out into tears and I ran out of the room. I felt like I was inside my shoes and my shoes are running out of the room.
Yeah.
And I sat down on the bed and I cried for about a half hour, an hour, just sitting there feeling like a biggest fool that you could ever want to feel like, and realizing that all they wanted to do was help me. So that to me was my second awakening. And from that day on, I always wanted to help addicts. Now,
because you knew what? No, why? Because you knew what it felt like, and you knew what it felt like to be reborn.
You live a life of addiction, and there are people that are not as bad as me, and people that are worse than me. But it doesn't really matter. Bad is bad to you, so it doesn't matter what, who, where, or when. And when that leaves you, and you look at life completely different, it's a real rude awakening. And you say to yourself, I've been asleep all these years, blaming everybody for my shortcomings, not taking responsibility for myself. And this is what changed me. So I went to aftercare. They had aftercare. It was supposed to go for 6 months. I went for a year and a half. They had to kick me out. Okay.
Yep.
I went about 13 months, 14 months. Anyway, I got divorced. They said, don't make any major decisions. And I went with my wife, who was, when I got out of treatment, she handed me a vial of Coke. I said, just do one line. I looked at it, I said, are you kidding me? I just did 6 weeks in treatment. And I couldn't believe it. So I pushed it away. And, she was still using and I was not using. Not a good combination. But I had 2 little kids, and I didn't want to lose my family. I figured maybe we can work it out. If I got it, she could possibly get it. Didn't work out that way. So in about a year or 9 months, I went to the therapist. I says, I can't live there anymore. I'm going to wind up using. So they said to me, then you have to get divorced, I guess. So that's what I did. So, and there's more to the story, but we'll be here all night. So let me fast forward it. A friend of mine, I had no car now, I had no home. I had nothing because she had everything, right? And my friend owned a hotel and he gave me a room. It was an ALF, adult living facility for older people, And that's where I was. And I used to cry. When my kids used to come see me, we all used to cry. But Daddy, what are you doing here? And I had a bicycle that somebody loaned me. And I had a jar. I used to put quarters in when I had quarters. I was teaching karate and making a few dollars for food. Now, I used to make $15,000 a week dealing drugs and doing collection work. I couldn't do that anymore.
Yep.
And I had people calling me, hey, man, could you make me this connection? Hey, listen, can you at least send your guys and collect them? And I was broke. And I said, no, I'm in recovery. I can't do that anymore. And I went to these meetings that I hated. I said, I feel like getting high when I'm in these meetings. And I didn't come here to join a new religion. But I kept going. They said, keep going don't leave before the miracle happens. And I'm saying to myself, this is a miracle. I'm in a room by myself, okay, looking out the window and everybody partying and me sitting here crying with my children. I said, this is ridiculous. So after I got tired of feeling sorry for myself, I started to realize where I was. And I took my bicycle. I was in Miami Beach, right on the boardwalk at night. I used to feel the ocean and then look at the sky. And I started to be more positive about what was going on and getting my mojo back and started training more, exercising better, do my best to eat better, So my life started to turn around. I went to the meetings. I did all the things that you're supposed to do if you want to get well. Talking about it doesn't mean anything. I always tell people knowledge is power, but without action is worthless. So, a lot of people say, well, I know what to do. They're not going to be not doing it.
Do it. Yeah.
And how's your life working out for you? And your best thing, you get your ass in that chair when you're in treatment. So, so anyway, a lot of things happened to me. I got a lot of betrayal. My doctor betrayed me. My therapist betrayed me. I raised $250,000 from the guy that owned the hotel. I walked I told him, I lied to him. I says, listen, I know this famous doctor. He wants to open up a treatment center. He says, well, if you got this doctor, I'll give you the money. How much money do you need? Now, what do I know how much? I'm a drug dealer that went to treatment. The only thing I know about treatment is I was in it.
Right.
So I said, $250,000. He said, all right, you got it. I said, oh, okay. So I went to the doctor. I said, hey, I got $250,000. How would you like to open up a treatment center? He said, John, I was just thinking about that because he was always a comedian, right? And we opened up this treatment center. I'm standing, I never forget it. I'm standing in a wing of a hospital that we got. It was called North Miami General Hospital. It's now a place they teach cooking. The hospital's not there anymore. Anyway, I'm standing there and I'm looking around and I'm saying, can this be possible? I'm like 15 months clean. What? How did this happen? And I was so excited. I can't even tell you the feeling inside of me. There's a kid from the South Bronx who only went to the 9th grade, okay? And I'm only part owner of a treatment center with doctors and therapists. And I said, holy shit, this is impressive.
Yeah.
Right? Well, we did a holistic program. So the doctor was into holism, and we had better food for the clients. We gave them yoga. I taught them karate. We had meditation, all kinds of things. And I wanted to be a therapist, but I only was in the 9th grade. So I had to go and get my GED, which I did. Then I went to school and I got 300 hours of addiction training. And it was really weird. All the students were trying to talk to the teachers to get them to make them come in as a student at their treatment center where they work. Well, I had the opposite. The teachers wanted to come to me so they could work for me and the doctor that I worked with. So it was kind of like weird. And then I became the valedictorian of the school. And, all these things started happening to me. It was like crazy stuff. They say beyond your wildest dreams, they weren't kidding.
You got some momentum. It just started to build, right? It started to snowball.
It just started to build, man. But what happened was my therapist didn't like the fact that his client was his boss. And I didn't care about being a boss. I only was enamored by where I was, And he was only making $29,000 a year where he was. I gave him $50,000 a year because I was so appreciative that he helped save my life, and the doctor and, all of them were making a ton of money. To make it really short, really quick, one day we couldn't make payroll. We were packed. And the guy that gave me the money says they're stealing. And I says, no, they're in recovery. I became sober to get stupid. Okay. I said, that's not, they only had 3 years of recovery. I didn't know that. They were newbies. Okay. I didn't even know what a newbie was because I was whatever you want to call me. Anyway, I went into the doctor's office. I says, are you stealing? Put his head down. He says, well, I got a sex addiction. I was buying girls and I was buying them apartments. And I got carried away and blah, blah, blah. So the therapist, long story short, I don't want to get into all the details, but anyway, they got rid of me. And they says, John, you have to leave. They blamed the guy that gave me the money that was stealing, who never had a close, it doesn't even close to the page, to the checkbook. So how can he steal? It was just all baloney. But all the people that I got was from where I went to treatment. I didn't know it was that nice to pull people out of another treatment center into my treatment center, but that's what I did. Anyway, that's what happened. And they said, either you sign off on this corporation or we're going to start a new corporation and you're out and you get nothing. And your friend gets nothing. So I didn't want to do that to my friend. They gave him the accounts receivables. They said, look, we'll give you the outpatient. I said, there's only 3 clients. He said, well, either you take it or not. And you get 25% of whatever we take in. I never got the 25%. So I got a salary. And that's what happened with that. And I stayed there for 6 years. And the reason why I stayed there is I wanted to learn everything about a treatment center. In every department I knew from stem to stern. You know, I finally went and got my GED. I went and I got my CAP. And I was always into different things, holistic things. And when I went to get my certified addiction professional certification, it was 200 questions. So I would wear eye shades with lights that would flicker. It was a mind thing they called it. I forgot what they called it, right? And a headset, and with all the questions, shooting the questions into my mind as these lights are going on and the answers. So everybody had 3 people in the room with me. And they all were laughing at me. I was the only one that passed. Which is the funniest part. And they all wanted to buy the machine. I mean, crazy stuff. So, you know, that went on, and then I quit, and I'll tell the rest of the book if they want to get it. And I went, and my friend said, I got another guy that wants to open up a treatment center. I said, really? He says, yeah, here. I said, he wants a business plan. I said, I don't know how to make a business plan. So I'll help you. So he did it. We went up to West Palm Beach. 2 minutes before I had to meet him, I forgot the business plan. And I said, what am I going to do? I went there and I said, look, I forgot the business plan. He threw a napkin at me and he says, I don't care. I know who you are. Write down what you need and what it's for. So that's what I did. We opened up another treatment center. But I didn't know he was a corporate raider. He was the kind of guy that would have people that knew what they were doing, build something up and then take it out from under them. And I made the same mistake twice.
Oh, wow.
I didn't have a lawyer. So I just signed papers without even reading them, like an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
So a year later, and I hired my sponsor, who was up there, who knew a lot of people. I gave him $50,000 a year, all right? And him and I put the program together. And a year later, the guy said, you're fired. He didn't like what I was doing. And I said, you can't fire me, I'm the owner. He says, no, read your contract.
Oh, wow.
I was going to throw him through the window of the office, but I was in recovery. So I didn't want to go back to my old stuff, right? So I let him go. And I walked out, I got my stuff, put it in a little box, sat on my car in the parking lot and cried. Here I am, 39 years old, and I'm 40, how old was I? 40 something years old, I'm crying, right? I couldn't believe it happened to me again.
Again.
Right? So anyway, I wound up working for a indigent program. The program director knew me. She was my school teacher, and she also worked for me as my family therapist. And she ran this program that was for people that had HIV, people that were homeless, and had psychiatric problems as well. And I was the program director, but it was an old TC, they call it. And what they do is they beat you up, and then they try to build you back up. And I always knew nobody had to beat me up. I did a hard enough job on my own, to myself. I didn't need any help, you know? And they would give them chocolates and candy and all kinds of stuff at lunch. Then they would act out, of course, with sugar. And then we would sit them on this bench and put a sign around their neck, you know, telling them that they're not supposed to do that. And I said, look, I can't deal with this anymore. So I resigned. After I left there, my girlfriend told me, hey, why don't you open up a treatment center? I said, I'm not opening up a treatment center. He said, no, open up a treatment center. I says, I don't have any money. I spent all the money they gave me. All right. I said, I only got $300 left in my bank account. So I went to my friend who owned a little building that had 750 square feet. I says, listen, how much is the rent? He said, how much you got? So I said, I only got $300. He said, all right, look, run it for 3-4 months, get some clients, and then give me $300 a month. I said, okay. Not to go too long because we'll be here all night. From there, I started it with $300. I got a partner who used to work with me. He was into business. I was into putting the money in my pocket. I didn't care if I got paid or not, as long as I paid my bills.
Mhm.
And we went through it. And then he got his son, who was an expert in internet. And it started to grow and grow and grow. And it winded up 18 years later. We had, remember, I only had one employee. That was me. Then we had two, me and Jerry. Then we had 3, 4. We have 147 employees. We own
Wow.
7 buildings. And we sold it in 2012 for $45 million.
So
Yeah, I
your
know.
story,
It's like a cartoon.
it's literally, yeah, cartoon, like on steroids. So if you turn $300, I mean, clearly you had not failures, multiple failures, you had multiple lessons, but you learned a lot in those 6 years in your first
Oh man,
experience.
I learned so much. I
Yeah.
can't even begin to tell you.
So that was time well spent, didn't end well, but, or did it, right? So you naturally, you took what you learned, you took all the hardships, all the bullshit, all the, the getting knocked down, the fights, the addiction, all that stuff. That no quit attitude, you turned $300 into 45 freaking million is pure insanity. And I'm sure we could talk about just the growth of those 18 years alone, but with the time we have left, I want to pivot slightly and have you explain to people your holistic approach that you have within your clinic, because it's really become the gold standard for what is done at a lot of these clinics. But sort of explain that holistic approach to help
real
with
simple.
addiction.
Most people don't even know what the word means. Okay.
Oh, the word holistic?
Yeah, it means holism, a comprehensive approach to something. Holism. So most treatment centers, they said it was a medical model. It's not true. It's a psychological model. If it was a medical model, they will be checking everything in the person.
Mhm.
Okay. You see, people think that have depression and anxiety that it only comes from your brain. No. If you have a low thyroid, you can have depression and anxiety, right?
Mhm.
If you have low testosterone, believe it or not, you can have depression and anxiety. If you have what is known as leaky gut syndrome, H. pylori infection, you can have depression, anxiety.
I've had that.
Closed head injuries, you can have depression, anxiety, and behavioral problems. So heavy metals, toxicity that you can have causes neurotransmission interruption. It mimics bipolar disorder and attention deficit disorder. So why aren't we looking at all this stuff? No, let's give him a pill. Let's give him Prozac for the thyroid. Oh, he's feeling depressed, give him this.
Yep.
And what I did was, now who's going to listen to a kid from the South Bronx who really, I got certifications. They gave me an honorary doctorate degree later on, but I got all this other stuff. I'm an EMDR specialist. I do trauma work with guys coming back from Iraq, Afghanistan. Police officers have been in shootings, girls have been raped, on and on and on and on. And I NLP, masters in NLP, but most of them all certifications.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to learn stuff that's going to really work for people, not just stuff you learn in school with a book that's already 7 years old, and by the time you get out, it's worthless. So that's why I didn't complete college. I just said, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I hooked up with this gentleman called Dr. Blum. He's the geneticist who found the addiction gene. There is an addiction gene. People don't even realize that. Look it up. I always tell people, look it up. Don't believe me. Okay. And it's the DRD2 ALE1 variant gene. Now, that is the main gene. And now, of course, there's other genes that are related to that. Okay. But that's the main gene. So if you have that, now, if you have that gene, that means you're predisposed for addiction. But there's such a thing as epigenetics, means the social environment can change what is called the gene expression. So that means you don't have to be an addict just because you have that gene. Okay. And we were doing research at my facility. And when we did at my place, nobody in the world did. In the world, actually. That's how we became well known everywhere. I was doing hyperbaric medicine. That's oxygen under pressure to help heal the brain. Who was going to argue with me and tell me that drugs and alcohol don't damage the brain? I want to see who they're going to tell me. Nobody. What do you do for it? Oh, now it's a whole different story. Well, oxygen under pressure actually heals the brain. So what I did was I got with some of the top researchers on the planet. I got with Dr. Paul Harch and Dr. Williamson. They're the two people that went to the Senate and they approved wound healing with hyperbarics for people in the VA that had diabetes. It cost them $70,000 to cut somebody's leg off or arm or whatever, and then to do the rehab. And hyperbarics was so almost nothing compared to that. So I learned from them. I got with some of the top scientists on the planet. And you got to read the book, because if I go into all the different things, it's kind of, we'll be here all night. But anyway, I wound up being with them. I wound up lecturing all over the world. I lecture in Taipei at the neuroscience conference. I'm lecturing, kid from the South Bronx, lecturing to neuroscientists, all right, about neuroscience. So, I mean, it's like stupid. If you go on my website, John, the letter J, Giordano.com, you'll see the videos, you'll see the one that I really felt really good about. I don't know if you know what the grand rounds is.
No.
Okay. In the medical community, in the colleges and stuff, the grand rounds is something extremely prestigious. Only special lecturers lecture at the university to doctors from all over the state. Well, they invited me to lecture at the grand rounds. I was a keynote speaker, and they videoed it to all the addiction doctors all over the state of Florida, which I don't think if you're talking about bullshit, they're going to ask you to do that. So I was telling about amino acid therapy, how it, with Dr. Blum, we did 15 papers on it about how it upregulates dopamine, the formulation that we did. We did fMRIs, we did PET scans, a double-blind study, which is the golden standard. I learned all the jogging about neuroscience and the human body and you know, about the microbiome, the gut. And most people don't know that dopamine and serotonin, 90% is manufactured in the gut. It goes up the vagus nerve into the brain and deposits it. So these are the things I put in my treatment center. I put massage therapy. They said, oh, that's Gucci. No, lymphatic massage. When you do drugs and alcohol, it maintains itself in the cells of your body. People don't get that. Okay, so you got to get that out with a sauna, steam, massage. We did colonics. We did acupuncture. It's only been around 5,000 years. What the hell do they know? Right? We did sound and light therapy. We did neurofeedback, biofeedback. I mean, aromatherapy. And I also one of the leading experts with Dr. Deborah Mash. I worked with her for 13 years in the island of St. Kitts. Ibogaine treatment. I don't know if you're familiar with Ibogaine.
I'm not. I'm familiar with St. Kitts, but not that treatment. No.
Ibogaine is a bush from West Africa, the Weedy tribe, that is used for rite of passage. And there was this guy, Howard Lutzoff, who was a heroin addict, doing 20 bags of heroin a day, okay? Decided he wanted to find a new high and did Ibogaine, okay, in West Africa and Gabon. And the next morning he woke up detoxed within 24 hours and no cravings. Now, being a good addict, he said, wow, I can make money from this. I don't know how this happened. And he opened up a place in Panama. He found out about Dr. Mash, who happened to be a neuromolecular scientist at the University of Miami School of Medicine. She was the head of the Brain Bank and Alzheimer's Foundation. And there's a whole story how her and I got connected, which is another funny story. Anyway, she decided to go to St. Kitts and got away from him because he was a little, you know, he was still an addict with behavioral stuff. And she opened up a treatment center in St. Kitts, and I worked with her for 12 years.
Wow.
And now the FDA trials are coming. She's in FDA trials now. trying to get Ibogaine here in the United States because it's a Schedule I drug, and you can't have it here because it's partial psychedelic. And it's pretty wild. You go back into a dream state for 8 to 12 hours, depending if you're a fast metabolizer or slow metabolizer, or how your liver's functioning. What we would do is I would prepare them for their journey, and then they would go into a bed. We would put eye shades on them and a headset with music to keep them in a containment field. Then we would give them, we'd have an IV in their arm in case there was any kind of an event, and a heart monitor on them. It was done strictly medical and doing research, by the way, on it. And what would happen, we would give them a test dose. 45 minutes later, if they tolerate it, then we would give them a full dose, and they would go into a dream state. And what would happen is they would go, and all of their traumas in their brain and stuff like that, they would have what is known as a cathartic experience. When they came out, I would debrief them and help them to extrapolate out all the information and do all that. So that's another part of my journey. I got a lot of parts, but.
Wow, man, that, excuse me, that's crazy. I love the fact that you take this holistic approach, and thanks for explaining the word, because you're right. I don't think a lot of people understand that approach. I think a lot of people lean on traditional medicine as it is today, which is they look at one part and they give a pill for that part, and then they get a side effect and they give another pill for that side effect. And so goes the daisy chain instead of looking
just follow the money.
holistically.
Follow the money.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. The pharmaceutical industry is complete bastardization of medicine.
You know who owns a couple of pharmaceutical companies? I bet you don't even know.
I don't.
The Nazi families.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Go look it up. Don't believe me. Go look it up.
I mean, I wholeheartedly believe you, especially with a lot of what's going on today, which could take us down a whole nother rabbit hole. It is.
You want to talk about that?
We'll talk about that offline. I'm all for it.
All right, you got it.
Yeah, it's atrocity what's happening today. But
yes.
what you've done, what you've created from $300 to 45 million. I mean, the financial side of it's impressive just from a pure business perspective. Moreover, here's a guy that was, beating the shit out of people in the Bronx, selling drugs, and now you're helping people and teaching neuroscientists. So, I mean, the story is incredible. The story of perseverance. And we have to have you on again. I got to read your book so I can ask you some more pointed questions as it relates to this. And we're going to put your book in the show notes, your website in the show notes, because your story is incredible. It needs to be made into a movie. And
that's what I'm trying to do. If you know anybody, let me know.
You know what? I do actually. So we'll talk offline about that. As it relates to, I have two last questions for you. So first one is, how can people find you? You just referenced your website, but how can people get in contact with you? How can they find you?
When they call me, they can call me. I'll give you my cell number. It's 786-271-5732. If you're calling me for bullshit, I want to let you know. But if you need help, I'm there.
That's amazing. I appreciate that. Direct to the cell phone. We'll put your website in there. It's John. Spell your last name for us.
The letter J, Giordano.com.
Perfect. And then last question, like you went over a lot of stuff on this, your story. There's so many embedded messages into that, which we didn't even get into, but I think people will extrapolate them. If people were to forget everything you just said for the last, hour plus, and just walk away from this with just remembering one thing that they can take with them as a nugget to improve their lives, what would be that one thing?
Well, I give you, how about 1.5?
I'll take 1.5.
Okay. There are no failures in life, only lessons. That's number one. And never give up. That's number 1.5, 2.
We'll call that 2 because that's a big one. And those are 2 tremendous messages, because I think failure has taught you a lot. I mean, shit, you've had a lot of it, but look at where it led you, because you never gave up. So, John, I honestly, man, did not expect this incredible conversation. This is like literally my mind's blown. We have to have you back on again. Thank you so much for taking time with us today.
My pleasure. When you get the book, there's pictures in there. You'll see me getting the awards. You'll see me with the karate stuff. You'll see everything in there. So, the audience don't think it's bullshit, because there it is.
I don't think the story you just told I mean, you can't make that shit up unless it's like a movie script. Yeah, it's crazy. So thanks again, John, man. I appreciate it. Stay on and we'll chat a little bit afterwards, but thanks for joining the show today, man.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for listening to the Adapt You podcast today. Our goal with this show and all of our content is to deliver you the guests and the respective knowledge necessary to help you change something in your life. Everyone who listens to this show has something they want to affect and something they want to change. And our goal is to help give you the knowledge necessary to take you down that path on becoming the absolute best version of yourself. If you like what you heard today, please tune in to all of our shows and also check us out in social media. You can find us on Instagram, on Facebook, and check out our website and have some great content on there as well. So thanks again for listening, and we'll see you on the next show.